Hi, everyone. Could someone just post in the chat if they can hear me okay? And I'll go ahead and get started. It's on the side. All right. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. And obviously, I wish I could be doing this in person with you guys, especially since it's starting to be spring. Philly is so beautiful at this time of year, but we'll do our best here today. First, I'll just introduce myself, and then we can get started. I'm Caitlin. I'm originally from Houston, but currently I'm in North Carolina with my mom. Um, Before Wharton, I worked as a data engineer at a tech startup in New York City called Tresata. I did my undergrad at UNC Chapel Hill. Go Heels. If there are any Tar Heels on the call, throw a shout out. I knew I wanted to go to business school because I wanted to make a big career shift from software engineering to investment banking. Obviously, that was something that I really thought required an MBA, and Wharton was a great place for that. I'll talk more about that later. But if there's any specific questions about recruiting, I'm happy to talk about that at the end. So what we'll do is I'll jump into the virtual tour now, and then at the end, please, I'll address any questions. You can go ahead and post those in the GoToWebinar chat function. I'll get to as many as I can. And obviously, if there's something specific, you can always reach out to admissions directly. Awesome. So I will go ahead and get started with the tour. I'm going to turn off my webcam so you guys can see the screen. Awesome. Okay, so our first stop today is going to be Huntsman Hall, which if anyone's been to campus, you know this is the hub of the MBA program. What's really my favorite part about Huntsman is it's part of the Penn campus. So the business school is not separated at all. This is truly located in the heart of Penn's campus in the center of Philadelphia. So if I do a scroll around here, the street that you're looking at is Walnut Street, which is one of the central streets connecting this part of Philly to Rittenhouse Square, which is an area where most of the MBA students live. So if you walked 20 minutes up this exact street, you'd end up at Huntsman Hall. Another great thing about Huntsman is if you take classes in the design school, or if you wanted to do a language class or a computer class, it's right, as I said, center in the middle of Penn's campus, so you don't have to commute at all, which is really great. Our next stop will actually give you a view inside of the building. So this area that you see here is on the bottom level of Huntsman, which is a great place if you wanted to have a group meeting or eat lunch or just hang out. This is a great spot to do that. I'll sort of orient you guys so you get a sense of where we are. If you go up these stairs through the middle, there will be classrooms on both sides here. If you see this escalator, this will take you up to more classrooms as well as on the third floor. But what I wanted to take a second to just touch on here, happy to chat more at the end, but is about Wharton's curriculum. I'm sure in your research you might know this already, but I'll hit the highlights. So Wharton has a core curriculum, which means there are certain classes that incoming first years will have to take. This includes economics, statistics, marketing, a version of accounting, and a version of corporate finance. Those are a bit more flexible. One of the things I was a bit nervous about in coming to Wharton was there's only 2 years. How will I be able to fit in required classes as well as, you know, all the electives I want to take? And I will say that I've been completely wrong about this. I took all of the required courses. I didn't place out of any of them. And I found it very easy to take electives, including shareholder activism, any type of entrepreneurship classes I'm interested in. It's truly a schedule built to give you maximum flexibility while also ensuring that you get kind of the core MBA skills you need. One of my favorite classes that I just mentioned is shareholder activism, which I've loved this semester because of all the guest speakers we've had. So we don't just learn about the concepts through a textbook or through readings, but our teachers actually brought in experts in the field of activism to talk about true cases that they've worked on. And I'll say that this is something that Wharton as a whole does a great job of. They bring in tons of guest lecturers. We had Bob Iger this year. I got to see the CEO of Flywheel speak, Howard Marks, if you're interested in investing. Truly incredible people come to campus, and that would also be housed in Huntsman Hall. If there are any questions about curriculum, I'll take those at the end. All right, so our next stop is actually one of my favorite places on campus. So to orient you, if you had come up those escalators and taken a right, you would end up in what we call the MBA Cafe, which is this area inside the building right here. That houses a pret, a bunch of tables. It's a great spot for lunch. If you have any group meetings, that's where you'd go. Also on a great sunny day like it is when we took these videos, it's a great spot to sit outside, eat lunch, have meetings, etc. But what I wanted to cover here, I'll get a lot of questions about travel when I'm giving a live tour. So I'll just sort of talk a bit about Wharton's opportunities to go abroad and really get a global experience. So two of the main programs Wharton offers for international travel through the school itself are global immersion programs and global modular courses. So these truly are international travel experiences that are heavily tied with coursework. So you'll be meeting with a teacher. Sometimes you'll do an entire quarter of a class that really prepares you to go on the trip that you'll be taking. There's also less formal, not directly school-related travel opportunities through clubs. So for example, I went to Colombia over Thanksgiving break with the Latin America Club, and there's a huge spring break trip to Japan that the Japan Club hosts. So there's truly a ton of like very formal or less formal ways to get an international experience. Another thing I'll touch on briefly here are leadership ventures. So these are travel opportunities through the McNulty Leadership Institute, which is where Wharton has a lot of additional leadership opportunities, but the travel one I'll touch on specifically is the leadership ventures. So these are trips that are truly designed to test and build leadership skills. So for example, a bunch of my friends over winter break went to Antarctica, where they were actually tasked with, cooking all the food, making sure they had all the right equipment. They took turns leading daily treks. It really is more of a rigorous, strenuous opportunity to travel, but really, really cool. I know all my friends really enjoyed that a lot. Also within the McNulty Leadership Center is a thing I'm really, really excited to do next year. It's executive coaching. So what you're able to do is get paired with an executive or an Wharton alum who is in the field you want to enter in for your career, and they actually offer one-on-one executive coaching for you. So you'll get to spend an hour with this person who's clearly an expert in the field and get truly personalized advice. I know a lot of people are really interested in that, and I think it's a really unique thing that Wharton is able to offer. Awesome. Okay, if there's any questions about that, happy to also take them at the end. So we'll go back inside Huntsman and look at a typical classroom. So as I mentioned briefly with our curriculum, all the classes there's a mixture of both lecture and case-based classes. So you won't find one structure across the board. There's definitely a variety. Classes typically, the size varies depending on if it's an elective or a core class, but typically they're not larger than 60, 65 people. And most of them, as you get into upper level electives in your major, will be very heavily participation based. So this is what a typical classroom would look like here. All right, now sorry about this. I want to skip to another one of my favorite places on campus, which is if you visited Wharton before, you would have seen this quad right outside of the admissions office, but I'll just orient everybody from where we just were. So if you walk up this red brick path back here and make a right, you would be back at Huntsman Hall, which is the building we were just in. So this quad is sitting between the admissions office and the career management / lauder building. One of the things I think we're all, or at least I was, and many of the people I've spoken with are really interested in or concerned about is what kind of resources does Wharton or business school provide you for career switchers or career management? Like, how am I going to get from A to B? And Wharton's Career Center is incredible. I definitely did not take advantage of the career services office during undergrad, but I've spent many hours in the Career Center since being at business school. So like I mentioned, I worked as a data engineer at a startup before coming to school, knowing I wanted to go into an investment banking role. So this is a complete switch. So I worked with the career advisors and the finance club to really make sure I was able to make this transition. And that's not to say, I mean, I know investment banking, consulting are pretty formalized recruiting pipelines at Wharton, but this office has at least 20 different career advisors who are experts in their field. I know a ton of my friends are interested in fintech, autonomous vehicles, future of mobility. There are people in this office who that's all they do. So don't worry if you want to do more of a startup recruiting, or if you're interested in something that you think is pretty niche. There is someone in this office who will be able to help you. And they're truly invested in your success. I truly can't speak more highly of them. The Lauder Institute is also housed in this building over here. I'm not personally involved in Lauder, but this is a separate program where you apply to get both a master's in international studies as well as the MBA. Please look on the website if you have any specific questions about the application process, because there are additional requirements there. All right, happy to talk more about recruiting or career management services at the end. I know I had a lot of questions about that when I was looking at business school. All right, let's see. Next stop on our tour today, actually, we don't get to see on the physical tour, so this is exciting. This is the Wharton floor of the library. So this is where you'll find many computers and different resources available. So something that I definitely underestimated was how many resources we have access to. I get Wall Street Journal for free. We have access to Bloomberg Terminal. We have Gartner research reports. Seriously, anything you could think of that you might need to do research for a class project or recruiting, you can find through the library. And most of these are digital resources, so you don't have to physically be in the library, but sometimes it's nice to come up here and study, or if you need to talk to a librarian, they sit over here, and they are the best resource for any type of group project that you have questions on. And for finals, this is a great place to feel productive. All right, awesome. Also this library is like 5 minutes walking from Huntsman, so really close by. Really easy to get to. All right, cool. Our next stop is actually a work in progress. So this is Tangent Hall, which is the future home of all things Wharton entrepreneurship. I'm personally really excited about this building. When I was deciding where to go to school, I was really torn between Wharton and going to the West Coast. Should I stay in tech? Did I want to pursue a career in entrepreneurship? But what has surprised me the most is I really didn't need to choose. Wharton is truly really has resources to do both traditional finance, real estate, and entrepreneurship. They have a vast number of resources that they give to students, and I think building a place to house all of these things is truly a testament to the school investing in venture capital opportunities, entrepreneurship, etc. So just to highlight a few of these things, there's a ton of entrepreneurship classes, and I've taken a few of them. They're awesome. There's also a program called VIPC, which is Wharton's own like incubator, where if you have an idea, you can apply to it and actually get funding. So student founders are pretty common, I would say, and definitely leverage on-campus resources to pursue their ideas. I usually get a lot of questions about that, so please, I'll address them at the end during Q&A. All right, next up is another one of my favorite places. So if you walk back down Walnut towards the center of Philadelphia, I don't know if anyone's been there, but just bear with me. This is 2401 Walnut. So Wharton has rented out a the eighth floor of an office building, co-working space in Center City. So this is a great place to go to study. It's closer to where you'll live probably. You can rent out these conference rooms, just have group meetings. It's truly an awesome space. I definitely spend a lot of time here. It takes like 5 minutes to walk here from my house. Another thing that's housed in this building is the Office of Student Life. So I know you're probably interested in, and I honestly didn't know how big of a part this would play in my Wharton experience, but clubs and student fellowships are a great way to get involved in the Wharton community as well as build your leadership skills. The clubs range from professional clubs, so obviously I'm involved in finance club, there's consulting club, investment management club, real estate club, so all the clubs you can think of that would really be a resource for you in your job search. Those are great resources for the recruiting process, as well as meeting people who have experience that you want to leverage. There's also social clubs. So there's a hockey club, which is, unfortunately, I'm not a part of it, but it's a great club. I think there's 600 members of this club. They have soccer. I mean, they have hockey games every Sunday night at like midnight, and Monday night at like 1 a.m. It's truly I know all of my friends who are involved in hockey absolutely love it. There's wine club, which is great. Boxing club. One of the most anticipated events of the Wharton Spring is what we call Fight Night. This is where members of the Wharton Boxing Club and the Penn Law School Boxing Club actually fight each other, and everyone dresses up in black tie. It's for charity. It's a really fun event. Looking forward to that next year. Also, Office of Student Life is in charge of various fellowships. So one of them is Student Life Fellow. I'm involved in this. So it's a group of 60 first years go at the end of their first year. So we'll be second years that really help organize preterm and really making sure the incoming class feels welcome and gets all their questions answered. I loved my Student Life Fellow. He was a great resource for me, making sure I felt welcome, knew how to navigate. MBA can be overwhelming, but I think Wharton does a great job, especially through resources like Student Life Fellow and clubs, of making everybody feel like they have like a place where they feel welcomed. All right, now the next stop will be Rittenhouse Square, another thing we wouldn't be able to do if this were in person. So for those of you who have not been to Philadelphia, this is the center of the city, basically. So all of these apartment buildings around here are pretty common for students to live in. So it's a beautiful park, square. There's tons of dogs here. It's surrounded by restaurants. As someone moving from New York City, I was a bit nervous that Philly would seem maybe a bit quieter or slow, but truly Philly is an awesome place to live. I live in a building right like 5 minutes walking this way, and I'm surrounded by most of my friends within like a 2-minute walk. There's great food. If you're interested in going to breweries, there's a place called Fishtown, which is about a 15-minute drive from where we are in this square, where they have tons of breweries and opportunities to be outside. It's really great. I can talk about living in Philly all day. So if you have any questions about that, I will answer those. All right, let's see. Actually, there was one picture that I kept. Okay, this picture here too is something I'd never seen until moving to Philly. It's the Schuylkill River, and you can run along here. It's really, really, really nice. Great place to be outside. I definitely would be using this if if I were in Philly now. All right. Two things that I'm not personally involved in, but I know are definitely highlights of the Wharton experience are the Wharton semester in San Francisco. So if you are interested in truly pursuing a career at a startup or in tech and really want to be out in Silicon Valley, closer to some of those companies, you can do a semester in San Francisco. It's you apply and before the semester you want to go to. I think it's offered actually every semester of the MBA program, but I can make sure about that in a second. and you spend your whole semester here, and there's actually opportunities to have in-semester internships with different startups that are in the Bay Area. Really cool opportunity, and definitely great if you want to spend some time on the West Coast. Another resource available is the Penn Wharton China Center. I personally don't have many details on this, but I will just highlight the international presence of Wharton and the opportunities that are available to spend outside of Philadelphia. So in addition to San Francisco, there's also a partnership with INSEAD. So if you know you want to live abroad, or spend some time as an exchange program, you can save 2 of your credits and spend a semester at INSEAD after the spring of your second year. Okay, I think that's all I have for the actual virtual tour, and this is available online as well if you want to play around with it more. I'm going to switch to back to the PowerPoint and make sure I can get some of the questions that you guys have. I'll turn my webcam back on. All right. Can you guys see? Oh, Alex, can you see me?
Yep, we can see you.
Okay, awesome. I will get to the questions now. Give me 1 second. Perfect. Okay, let's see here. Okay, great. Here, I will start with this one. So I get a lot of questions about what specifically made me choose Wharton over maybe other schools I applied to. And I think what really solidified the choice for me was the people I met during events like these, and through just networking and phone calls. I just thought there was such a great balance between leadership opportunities, being good students, wanting to travel abroad, get a global experience, but really the fundamental thing that made me choose it was the authenticity of the people I met. You really won't find a better community than the one at Wharton, that especially now in times like we're facing right now during a pandemic. Just the outreach I've had from alums that I met through recruiting and just the administration, I really have been blown away by everybody's adaptability and just kindness. In terms of more concrete facts about the offerings, I think the program does a great job in being both flexible and rigorous. So with the combination of a flexible curriculum and a core curriculum, I actually think it's very beneficial to make sure everyone gets kind of a baseline level of MBA skills like finance, accounting, stats. And the offering of electives are incredible. There's so many classes. I wish I could stay forever. All right, next question. Okay, got one about the San Francisco campus. So please, I haven't been, but there are resources online if you want more information about that. And I think if you have specific questions, admissions can help you with that as well. When does internship recruiting start and when you enter your first year? Great question. So it really depends. I think for more structured recruiting like investment banking and consulting, that will happen in October, which is great because you have the first quarter to get acclimated to Wharton, to focus on studies, to get involved in clubs. It doesn't really start until quarter 2. So you have time. They're actually not allowed to talk to you, companies, before then, which is great. If you're interested in more startups, that happens in the spring. So normally those companies might not know how many people they want to hire until February or March. So then that's when that would normally start. Let's see. The library is open for everybody, so not just Wharton students, which is great. Are clubs application-based or more community-based where anyone can sign up? Great question. Anyone can sign up for clubs. Membership is totally open. There's normally a club fee. Then there's the opportunity to be on the board or take an active leadership role in clubs, which will be a small application. So like I'm the finance club president, but that was more of an application situation, which you can do as a first year too if you want to be on a board. A lot of people are on many boards. Talk about majors. Yes. Can you please talk about how majors work and how they are separate from interdisciplinary programs? Okay, yeah, so great question. Wharton, you will have a major at Wharton. So I'm a finance major. You can double major as well. You don't necessarily have to pick. It's not as stressful as with undergrad where you're forced to decide if you want to do certain majors sometimes right when you arrive. Um, there's there's not a concentration per se. Like there was an undergrad, but if you are interested in doing classes outside of Wharton, that's totally fine. I know people that take like a Spanish class within the liberal arts college, or a design class if you want to take like one class in architecture. Um, that's also totally um, available to you. Next, do most students live on or off campus? So unlike with undergrad, most students live off campus. I would say a vast majority, like 98% at least, live off campus, in between Rittenhouse and Huntsman Hall, with most people living near the square we ended the tour at. Can you please shed some light on the electives around advanced analytics? Yes, good question. So Wharton has been doing and adding classes in an analytics major over the years as more people obviously have become interested in data science, data analytics, working in big tech. So there's tons of options. And if you go on if you go online in Google Wharton course catalog, I did this before coming to school, you can see the entire course selection. And they even added a business analytics major recently. So if that's all you want to focus on, that's totally doable too. Before being a student, do you see anything you would have done differently before getting admitted at Wharton? Um, I think I'll talk about some things about the MBA experience that maybe I wish I'd known. So it's it's definitely an overwhelming first 2 weeks when you arrive. There's so many things to do. You think about the opportunities available to you at Wharton and truly picking what you want to focus on. I think that's the hardest thing. Um, Before applying, I think it's great. I thought that having 4.5 years of work experience was great, and I think the average in my class is around 5. So definitely having worked before applying definitely gives you a great perspective to offer to the classroom. But I think those stats are also available on the website. Let's see. Sorry, I missed my. How was the TBD experience? Oh, yes. Okay, great. So, how was your team-based discussion experience during the interview process? What advice would you give? I'll just mention this briefly because it's a great thing to know in case you aren't aware that Wharton does group-based interviews. This is called the team-based discussion. So you'll be in a random group of like I think my group is 8 people, and you'll have a prompt that everyone's gotten beforehand, and then you'll discuss your ideas in a group. Um, I thought my experience with that was great. Everyone in my group was very friendly and extremely cooperative. I also think the school does the interviews that way to see how, because so many of your projects in business school um, will be team based. So it's a great way to sort of gauge how people interact in groups. Advice, I'm no expert, but I think just be yourself. I mean, that's advice I'd give to anyone, but I think it's a great experience. And if you do interview on campus, hopefully you'll get to see all the buildings we did on our tour today. Can you speak to the integration of significant others into the social and community life? Absolutely. So, Wharton partners are such an important part of the Wharton community. There's a partners club on campus where they're able to join. They can come to any events. One of my best friends at Wharton is a partner, so she's engaged to a good friend of mine, and she's been on every trip that we've gone on. I think that the integration is like it's very seamless, and they're involved in many of our activities. and a lot of people, if their partner can't move with them to Philly immediately, they'll move eventually, or commute from New York or DC pretty easily. What is the culture in the Wharton community like among students? Is it collegial or more competitive? I like this question a lot because when I was in your shoes, I had a I think I had an idea that the culture at Wharton would be very competitive and not necessarily collaborative at all. I was totally wrong. I think the people in this community are extremely supportive. Like I mentioned, I went through investment banking recruiting, which, if you think about it, we're all competing for the same jobs. We're all going to the same events. We're all interviewing with the same people. It could have been extremely competitive and cutthroat. That was not the case. I met some of my best friends throughout this process. When someone got an offer, we would all wait for them and hug them. It was never competitive. It was when one person succeeds, we all succeed. And I think that attitude is carried throughout the entire Wharton experience. Obviously, it's 800 people in a class that are clearly type A and competitive, but I think it's a healthy level of competition. Definitely way more collegial than cutthroat. Let's see. Sorry. What was something you found yourself surprised by when you first came to Wharton? Yes, great question. I think two things that I kind of already hit on, but one, the um, the amount of opportunities available to you. So there's infinitely many clubs. There's so many classes you want to take. There's so many things to apply for, like fellowships, opportunities to go abroad. So I think what is great about Wharton, and I actually didn't mention this yet, is when the first years come in August, there's about 3 weeks called preterm where um, you're the second years haven't come back yet, you're not in classes yet, you're really just getting to know each other, and it's a great opportunity to think about what you want to get involved in and set those goals for yourself. So I was just surprised by immediately being surrounded by so many opportunities and not having necessarily thought about what I wanted to do or get involved in. So that those 3 weeks I spent thinking about those goals and how I wanted to spend the next 2 years. Let's see. Um, Okay, I think there's a few questions. I'll just touch on them briefly since there's no real concrete answer yet for anyone. But obviously, given the COVID-19 impact on travel, the school-related travel for the remainder of the year obviously is not happening. But for next year, I think there's no clear decision. It'll, as with most of the things we're dealing with, there's so much uncertainty. But what I will say is the administration has been great about communicating with us when they do have any information. So when they know, we'll know. Let's see. Oh, can you speak more about the transition from NYC? Have you lived anywhere else? Yes. So we get a lot of people coming from New York, and I think the biggest fear is like, oh, there's not going to be enough restaurants. It's going to be boring. New York is so lively. I definitely thought that, but Philly is great. There's a ton of restaurants. I was so shocked, especially if you like BYOBs. There's so many options. Um, Also, it's cheaper. Like, it's a great place to go to school. You're not paying New York rent. You can walk to campus. It's much more contained. The downtown is pretty small, so it's not overwhelming. My move specifically was very easy. I had my same movers from New York just drive my stuff from my apartment, and it was very seamless. Um, I've lived in I'm from Houston. I've lived in North Carolina, and then I lived in London sort of for work for a bit. Philly, I'm pleasantly surprised. I mean, I was actually like, maybe I should stay here. When you guys come visit, I hopefully, if you come for an on-campus visit, you'll see. And I'd be happy to give you some recommendations if you ever in person. All right. I'm curious what drove you to switch careers from data engineering to banking and how Wharton supported you in this process. That's a good question too. I think I've spoken to many engineers who are thinking about the MBA and maybe why not computer science or why not a different master's. For me, I think the MBA experience gives you a really holistic skill set, and especially from the point of view of being a manager. So you really focus on leadership and while building those core technical skills. I honestly didn't know I wanted to do investment banking when I applied, but I knew I wanted to do something related to finance. So Wharton actually helped me make that decision. I talked to two career advisors, the PE, VC, um, startup career advisor, as well as the investment banking career advisor, and just thought about what my goals were, both long term and short term. And they really guided me towards making this decision, um, which was great. And sometimes I just went into the career office to vent, and that was equally helpful. um, Okay, great. What upcoming changes at Wharton are you most excited about? I think this is a good question too. I have been really pleasantly surprised and um, like very, I guess, just happy about the emphasis on entrepreneurship and technology that the school has. I think they've recognized a need to add certain courses, to add a major in business analytics, to build a new building, to reflect the wants and needs of the students that are coming in. Like, you don't have to study finance at Wharton. You can be an entrepreneur, you can start a company, you can be a founder, you can be a venture capitalist, you could be a consultant. The possibilities are endless, and the school adapts their curriculum to reflect the change in student preferences. And I think that's what excites me about the school the most. So with our new building, I'm really excited for that too. Let's see. Um, Okay, Wharton has a larger intake class among the competitive business schools. That's true. How does this affect student and community life? Okay, that's a great question. I should have hit on this before. So Wharton is a bigger class. There are 863 of us in my class. So that's one of the two largest first year classes. I think I never really thought about that in my decision making process, but I think going back on it, maybe I should, but I think my decision would be the same. The larger class, it does mean there's more people, but it also means that it's a bigger network you're going to have in the future. It's a more diverse student body. My learning team, which is 5 people you're paired with in the beginning, me from tech, a guy from Montreal who did PE, a woman who worked in the FBI for 10 years, an ex-consultant, and a guy who ran his own consulting firm in Nigeria for many years. So you get that diverse perspective because you have a bigger student body. I think we get to have more international students and international perspective by being just larger. And you think about when you graduate, what's the biggest asset you'll have after your MBA? It's the people you meet, and there's just a greater opportunity to meet people when there's more of them. So I think big fan. Um, I've heard a lot about how Wharton is a data-driven institute. Could you please throw some light on how data plays a role in learning, both inside and outside the class? Great question and very accurate. So Wharton is extremely data-driven, and I think that this is fundamentally a core part of how they make decisions, which I appreciate. And maybe that's because I used to be a data engineer, but I think it's a really special part about Wharton. Many of our classes rely on, I know that this is probably true in most classes, that they do surveys of students after you take a class, but I think Wharton really does actually look at the results and integrate the feedback into the class to make them better. Everyone has the opportunity to take a 360 leadership test when they arrive at Wharton. So these results will actually be displayed to you and show you traits that you have as a leader that you need to work on and get better. And then you take it again and you see if you're improving. So these types of things that they've integrated into the curriculum, into part of the experience, are just ways that leverage data are really cool. Also in your classwork, if you take any finance or data analytics class, it's completely data driven, and every report I have for even a management class, if you want to bring in data, outside data, or build an Excel model, that's totally welcome. If you don't, that's also fine. Let's see. How would you recommend we get in contact with current students to learn more about Wharton? Is there a way to speak with students in certain clubs? This is something that I think the admissions office can help you with. It's if you come do a tour, like I'm happy to share my email if you have specific questions. But there's a group of us that volunteer in the admissions office that provide our contact during one of these tours on campus. So I'm happy to try to do my best to connect you with somebody if there's anything specific you want to learn about, or do my best to answer myself. Caitlin, would you mind sharing a bit about your typical week? How much time do you spend in Huntsman versus being off campus? I think this is a great question too. So when I toured business schools, I thought a lot about what I wanted out of the experience. If I wanted to be on campus a lot, did I want to be, doing remote work? And I think what I loved about Wharton was campus was so much a part of the students' daily lives. So everyone goes to Huntsman at least once a day. You can arrange your schedule if you want to do like an in-semester internship to avoid it, but most of the time Huntsman's busy. It's bustling, it's lively. I loved that about it, and I wanted to be around my classmates. So I think a typical week, we don't have class on Friday, which is awesome. Especially for recruiting, you can take Friday um, to go to New York or travel for an interview. But we have classes Monday through Thursday. Typically, if you want to have Tuesdays and Thursdays free, you can make it that way. But I have class every day, with Monday and Wednesday being a bit more heavier with like more classes. Then Thursday is pub, which is every Thursday we have happy hour. You can join the club that's called Club Pub, and you go for beer, wine, pizza every Thursday. The weekend, do something in Philly, go out to BYOB. There's tons of club events. Someone just asked some of the best social experiences. So there's tons of club functions. Like I went to the Greater China Club's Chinese New Year celebration this year, which was in Chinatown. It was so much fun. It was on like a Thursday. There's always something you can do. It's truly just picking. You could do something every night. But that event was super fun. There was performances, great food, great people. Let's see. Oh, Cluster Olympics and Cluster Cup sound fun. Can you describe them? Yeah. So Wharton part of preterm is you're all divided. The incoming class is divided into 4 clusters. I think other business schools do it pretty similarly. So like 200 plus people per cluster. There's 4 of them, and then within each cluster there'll be a cohort, which is a group of about 60. The first week of school, you participate in Cluster Olympics, where each cluster basically competes against each other, and there'll be a winner at the end. My cluster, which was the bees, we lost pretty badly last year, but it's very fun. I think that event and how much effort the school puts into the first 2 weeks of the incoming classes experience, it just speaks volumes to how important the community is for the experience. Not just your classes, not just traveling, but really being part of a community is so important. All right, let's see. Is there a particular class or professor that has inspired you? Yes, I think that I'm not alone in thinking and experiencing the incredible Penn faculty. We have some of the best professors in the world here. One of the classes I took this semester, I mentioned it briefly, was shareholder activism, and my professor is incredibly inspiring and also just very intelligent. And just hearing him talk about his experience, he worked as a consultant for many years for many companies that have dealt with activists, and he truly is not afraid to speak his mind. And I just found that really, really refreshing. And I think you'll find that the teachers here, because they have their own research, are just passionate about the subjects that they teach. Let's see. Yes. Can you talk a bit more about the executive coaching initiative, first or second years? Who generally do you have access to? Is this a one-off conversation or a relationship you can build? Great question. The executive coaching is for second years. So if you participate you do like a 360 leadership test at the beginning of your first year, and then that information is kind of followed with you, and then you're able to participate in executive coaching. Since I'm a first year, haven't done it yet, but I know that my friends who did it, met with her coach multiple times, and had a pretty close relationship with that person. It's not just a one-off thing over the phone. It's actually really them trying to give their time to make a meaningful impact and actually help you with any questions you have going into a particular industry. For those of you that might be interested in real estate, there's a similar program for real estate majors through the Zell Laurie Real Estate School. One of my closest friends is a real estate major, and all of the incoming first years are paired with a mentor through the real estate school, and you can meet with this mentor. This mentor serves as a resource for you for recruiting, for questions. And so luckily, my friend's mentor lives in Philadelphia, and they meet weekly. So that's a great opportunity, and it's just, I think, a testament to Penn alums being very involved. How does student life change in the winter due to the weather? It doesn't. I think people are still very willing to hang out even when it's cold. I think the Uber rate to campus probably increases, but other than that, I think it's pretty social year round. Okay, you mentioned testing or getting out of core classes. If someone has a master's in economics or accounting, would they be able to skip the core classes? Yes, definitely. So before you start in August, Wharton offers placement tests. So similarly to like APs in college, or for college, you have the ability to place out of certain things. Especially like if you have a master's in economics, you could take the econ placement test and not have to take it. Totally fine. I didn't do any of those. I kind of ran out of time, but so I liked the core classes, but for some people who have taken these many times, definitely an opportunity to save some credits. Let's see. Yes, can you speak a bit more about the difference between elective courses and majors and how the curriculum balances those? Yes. So you can sort of, what I did is I had to take the core, so I took those the first semester. Then I knew I wanted to be a finance major, so then I needed a full semester of finance, macroeconomics, and some of the other degree requirements. And then you can think about all the electives you want. I met with an advisor, in academic advising. They're really, really helpful to make sure I was kind of balancing the workload appropriately. Electives are more often, some of them are full semester, but some can be a quarter. So you can only take it for one quarter, which gives you more credits to take other classes the next quarter, which is great. Like my entrepreneurship class only lasted from August to October. So then I could have added another elective for that, the second half of the fall. I do recommend going to look at the course catalog on the website. It is extensive and really fun to look at. What extracurriculars did you get involved in, and what are some student favorites? Good question. So I'm involved in obviously the clubs I've mentioned, but I think some of the highlights for student life are definitely hockey, which I talked about. Boxing, I also talked about that. Another cool event we have in the spring is Penn Charity Fashion Show. So that's a whole conference club in itself that goes into planning this, which is a school-wide fashion show. The students are the models, and all the proceeds go to, I think it's the Boys and Girls Club in Philadelphia. You have VIP tickets, everyone dresses up, there's open bar, it's really fun. Other student favorites, I think there's a new like e-gaming club, which is probably pretty popular, especially now. A yoga club is great. So if anyone's interested, anyone likes ClassPass, if you join the yoga club, you get really discounted, your membership covers your classes. So you pay one fee at the beginning, and then you can go to basically unlimited yoga classes, like even core power and like ones that you would see on ClassPass. That's really cool. I obviously love wine club. They do like wine 101 classes where you learn a lot about wine, different regions, etc. Let's see. Let's see. I've touched on most of these. Let me just see. Culture. Let's see. Okay, I think I've covered most of these, Alex. If you want me to cover anything specific that I didn't hit from an admissions perspective, let me know. Otherwise, I think I've touched on most of these.
No, I think this is a great place to end. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. We will be recording this and it will be on the website within a few days. So if you missed anything that Caitlin discussed, please make sure to check out the virtual event section of our website to see the recording of this live virtual tour. And we will have a few more of these with a few other current students in the coming weeks as well.
Awesome. I wish I could have seen you guys, but it's great to virtually meet you.
Thanks everyone for watching.